Guys, and welcome back to another bouncer video here by Big Al, and thank you for tuning in. Now this particular video is a more in-depth look at drugs and alcohol, which are a big, part and parcel, basically a big scene of the doorman world, so to speak, the bouncer world. And the reason for that is obviously, well, there's two reasons. First of all, alcohol. People are going to be drunk. If they're not drunk, then you're in trouble because the people who are employing you are going to soon be bankrupt. As a doorman, you are employed by predominantly bars, nightclubs, and pubs. All three venues predominantly rely for their income on the selling of alcohol. Okay, so if the place is successful, you are going to be dealing with drunk people all the time on a daily basis, and not on a daily basis, but literally every single minute you're there, apart from maybe the first half an hour whilst people are, when it is quiet and there's only a few people there getting a few drinks. But to be honest, even them, they're probably going to be drunk because they get pre-drunk. They get drunk before they turn up to the bar. They drink cheap drinks before they get there, either at home or other bars and clubs. Okay, and so as I say, the majority of your time is going to be spent dealing with at the very least drunk people, and that is a brutal reality of being a doorman. If you cannot handle people who are drunk, and that's quite a skill in its own right, and it's a skill that you can learn. It's something you're certainly not born with, but it requires to some degree a combination of personality and then unfortunately at times brute force, depending on the type of drunk and the situation and the circumstances that you're dealing with them. And I'll deal with that, later on in the video. But the first and most important thing that you realise is that you will be dealing, 100% certainty of it, there's no doubt about it, will be dealing with people who are heavily intoxicated on a daily basis. And if you cannot deal with these people in an amicable manner most of the time, for the majority of the time, you are not suitable for door work. You have to be able to remove customers out of the venue when they are causing trouble without causing too much trouble yourself. Okay, and I can get into the details of that either later in this video or perhaps another video on how to do this properly. Maybe I can do it as part of my martial arts series. So it's an idea, certainly showing the physical techniques that you can use. Okay, but the other thing that you could be dealing with, and this is again another major reality. Don't worry about it, by the way, guys. They're in the corner. That's my dog. So if you see something moving, it's not your eyes. It's just my puppy's asleep. But the other brutal reality that you have to accept is that you will most likely, not necessarily every time, but the majority of the time. I mean, I doubt there'd be any nights where you're not dealing with this, but it depends where you're working, I suppose. But the majority of the time, you will also be dealing with people who are high on drugs. Okay, and the particular drugs that they're high on will vary according to the country you're in. It will vary according to the time of the year. Certain people like to take certain drugs at different times of the year, like I don't know. Christmas time, for some reason people like to take cocaine more at Christmas time, a white Christmas and all that, I don't know, but then again they take cocaine all the time as well. But there are certain times of the year where you're more likely to have people on drugs, is what I'm trying to say. It's not like the type of drug changes according to the time of the year. It's just the frequency of use can increase over certain seasonal periods, so we say. But as I say, you will be dealing with people who are high on drugs, and the reason for that, and it's logical when you think about it like this. The reason that you have to accept that you've been dealing with people who are high is because it's very often it's only the people who have real serious problems who typically will be taking drugs in their homes. Most drugs, not all, but the majority of drugs, recreational drugs at least, that are taken are social drugs. There are drugs that are to be taken when you're surrounded by other people, by your friends or strangers even. Okay, obviously there are certain drugs that people will be taking in their homes or house pies and stuff. But nonetheless, a lot of people who take drugs are going to want to come to a nightclub or bar to experience the high while surrounded by others, especially as for some reason most people think that when they take certain drugs, again cocaine is one of the big ones, but MDMA also, ecstasy, okay, believe that the drugs, and maybe they do as well because they can give a lot of confidence, their drugs will increase their chances of pulling a bird. It's as simple as that. Sex rules, essentially. People take drugs because they either think it will make it more likely that they'll get sex, or will make them better at sex if they know they've got a girlfriend and that they are going to have sex that night or whatever. Okay, it just enhances the experience. Obviously, not everyone takes drugs for that reason, but it is a big reason behind why they're doing it. And what better place to do it than a nightclub where there's music, where they can party, where they can enjoy themselves and have a laugh and have a lot of fun. Okay, now as long as they're not having fun at your expense as a member of the security team protecting that venue, then whatever. I mean, it's not really your problem to deal with. What they choose to do in their lives, that's down to them. You might even do it yourself, and as long as you don't get in people's way, then who gives a shit, basically. But the problem is they are and can be a big problem according to what drugs they take and how they react on it. And again, towards the end of the video, I'll get into more details. But let's start now with people who are intoxicated, because this is the predominance of the people who are going to be causing trouble. So really, how do you deal with people who are drunk? Well, it depends on how drunk they are and how they react or act whilst being drunk. You will have heard, of course, many people say that, oh, I'm a happy drunk, or I'm a nasty drunk, or a grumpy drunk. People are different types of drunks. Okay, when they get drunk, for example, when I was young, I was a very, very, very happy drunk when I was a teenager. If I got drunk, I would be absolutely, loving life, dancing, and just wanting to be have a nice time. I wouldn't cause any trouble. If I was told to stop doing something, I'd stop. Don't get me wrong, I probably caused as much mayhem as some of the aggressive drunks, because I'm jumping around, possibly banging into people and not realising. And so the happy drunks you still have to be aware of, because these guys can cause fights inadvertently. They're not trying to, but they can cause fights, because if they go and whilst jumping around, happy, dancing away and all the rest of it, and they bang into someone and knock their drinks over them, or they piss off an aggressive drunk with their, childlike attitude, and behaviour, then obviously that can lead to problems. That can cause a fight. And so you have to keep your eye on them, but generally speaking, they're not going to be directly causing trouble. They're going to be giving other people in the room or the venue that you're in excuses to cause trouble, using them as the excuse. Okay, so keep an eye on them, because trouble can find them, but they're not going to be creating trouble directly. So they're okay on the most part. Grumpy drunks, well, most of these people, they tend not to come out, so they're not going to be part of your scene. They tend to like to drink alone. Okay, and if they are being a grumpy drunk, well, they'll probably be sat at the bar, putting a lot of money into the cashier's, the till, and they will not be causing much problems whatsoever. They just don't want to be talked to, and to be honest, most people don't want to be brought down with them. And so if they're drunk, so other drunks and other people who are high are not going to be going up to grumpy drunks that much. They're going to be avoiding them, because they don't want to be brought down with their negative attitudes. Okay, occasionally it will happen, and the grumpy one will probably tell them to, go away or whatever. Someone who's happy, a happy drunk, typically will go up to and go, oh, come on mate, come dance with us, blah blah blah, and all the rest of it. But very rarely will that sort of lead to becoming a fight or any trouble that you'll have to deal with. Because bear in mind, you don't have to deal with every misdemeanor that happens. People are going to get up to fucking nonsense in your fucking venue. It's just unavoidable, unfortunately. People are going to get up to nonsense, because that's part and parcel of having fun most of the time. But as I say, as long as they don't cause trouble for you, where you have to get involved, where you say, no, that's enough, you've gone past the barrier, you've gone past the what I deem as being acceptable. Or if they're doing something, I don't really like that, so I'm going to give them a warning. They don't take the first warning, maybe they don't even take a second warning if you've been particularly generous. Fuck them on the third warning, get rid of them. Okay, even if they're being happy and nice and not really being a problem. At the end of the day, if you're doorman, you're dictating the rules of that venue, or it's your position to enforce the rules that you're told that exist. And if they're breaking those rules and they're not playing ball, It's your job to get rid of them or to deal with it however is appropriate. But typically, removing them from the venue is the thing that needs to be done. Removing happy and grumpy drunks normally isn't that much of a problem. They don't want to fight. More than often, they're happy to leave, and they might switch. People don't just stay happy drunk if they're then confronted by someone who's been aggressive. Say a doorman comes up to them, getting tells them to fuck off or whatever. I'm making it briefer than it would be. You wouldn't just go up to someone and tell them to fuck off necessarily if they're happy drunk or causing trouble. But they could then suddenly become an aggressive drunk because it's in their nature. They feel threatened, so they're like, no, I'm not going. If they, but most of the time, they're going to go. And the way that you deal with a happy drunk that turns into an aggressive drunk is the same way that you deal with an aggressive drunk, someone who just gets aggressive when they get drunk anyway. I've got a dry throat, guys, so just bear with me 1 second. I do apologise, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. So, and the third and final drunk, as I said, and I've just touched on there, is the aggressive drunk. Some people, for some reason, I've never got this myself, I've seen people like it, and I've got friends like it as well, who when they get drunk, they get aggressive. They like a good old rumble and tumble, or at least a verbal slagging with someone. People, it happens, and sometimes you'll get verbal confrontation between people, and it can be men, women, men, whatever, or man on man, woman on woman. It's not gender specific. Women are verbal, men are verbal, whatever. Men tend to be shout and scream and will get into the person's face. Women will tend to keep their distance a little bit more. However, they can do exactly the same as what a lot of men do, is try and get up in their face. As long as they're keeping a distance, generally speaking, the verbal slagging will burn itself out long before you can become aware of it and go deal with it. And they'll meld into the crowd and they'll be gone, and it won't happen again. If you clock who they are, you can go up to them and go, well, how was all that about, mate? Yeah, well, don't let it happen again, alright? Just you stay over there, they stay over there, don't cross paths. That's what I recommend, because if it happens again, I'll have to get rid of you. Or, we don't want to fight, do we? You can make it a joke of it. You go, what the hell was that, mate? About, mate? Bloody hell. What you call that? You shout like a pussy. No, honestly, mate, just, keep it under check now, yeah? Depending on, whether you know them, whether they're regulars, or whether they are just being kind of friendly, but there was just a little bit, sometimes there's reasons why people shout at each other. Some times there are genuine reasons. You can kind of understand why they were getting pissed off. But it's not for you as a security man really to take sides. You have to understand, and that's a very good point, which I've just touched upon there. As a doorman, do you take sides when a fight starts? No. Okay? It's too complicated, it's a waste of your time, and there will be, more likely or not, someone who is in the right and someone who's in the wrong, but it gives a shit. They're both having a fight, they're both having a scrap, they're both causing disharmony to the venue, and unless you can genuinely see that it was obvious that someone's just got hit and they're being very calm. Go, hey, come on, mate, back off. They're not fighting back. It's just someone trying to punch them. Hey, mate, I don't want to get involved. And the other person's taking a few swings at them. In that case, you can leave the guy who's probably had a few swings taken at him. Leave him. It's not a problem. You're going to cause more trouble by getting rid of him because his friends are then going to complain and go, what are you doing? He did nothing. But get rid of the obvious aggressive one. But if there is an actual fight where people are both swinging on both sides, do not ask, do not care, do not give a shit who's caused the fight. They're both fighting. Get them both out of there, and preferably out of different doors if you can, because you don't want the fight at the front of your door. You don't want it at the front of the door because that's where new customers are coming in. At the very least, kick them out the back. If they want to continue fighting, kick them in the back. Kick them out of the back. But if you have to get them out the front door, you get rid of them separately. Okay, and you make sure that they keep the distance from the venue. Because as soon as they're on the venue, if they're causing trouble, they're trouble to deal with. But if they're on the other side of the road, not your fucking problem. Okay, so that's touching on that. You don't take sides because it's too complicated. The last thing you want to do is be talking to one drunk. What's the story, mate? What's happening? And then talk to them because one, drunks, they don't make sense. Two, they don't even know what's going on half the time. They don't know, so how are you going to know? And thirdly, you don't get paid enough. Who gives a shit? It's more time efficient to get rid of both of them. And the problem is, when people get into fights, they get aggressive. They've got that adrenaline in them. They're more likely to get into a second fight. Or say you kick one of them out, and say that a couple of their mates, if they're kicking up over it or whatever. But if you get one of them out and leave the other one in, but that person who's been kicked out has a few mates left behind, their mates can then start on that person that you've left in. So if you get rid of both of them, you've got rid of the problem entirely. But if you keep one of them in the venue, chances are there's the embers of the fire that are still there and can catch the light, and the aggression can start again. So no, get rid of both of them. Get rid of both of them. Okay. That's what I would recommend anyway. Okay, and so I've gone off a little bit off topic, but I feel like these videos, they're more informal really. I'll talk about whatever comes up, okay? But then you've got, as I say, your aggressive drunk, which will be causing problems like I've just kind of like laid out in front of you. The aggressive drunks are people who, when they get drunk, take a few drinks down their neck, they're looking for a fight. Okay, they're looking for the happy drunks to barge into them by mistake. They're looking for the happy drunks to talk to someone that they have, not even necessarily their girlfriend, but someone who they fancy, who they can then kick up and go and hopefully maybe impress the girl over. Go, hey, don't go near my girl, boom, boom, Aggressive drunks are always a problem. You can't spot them. You cannot take someone who's sober off the street and go, oh, he looks like he's going to be an aggressive drunk. You can't spot what type of drunk people are until they're in the venue and they're drunk. Obviously, it will be your job, if you're doing the venue over time, to learn who is and who isn't a good or bad drunk, and to either bar them or to keep an eye on them, depending on how much trouble they cause. But that's really working the doors over several months at the very least, and getting used to the venue and the locals and the people who visit regularly. And that might be difficult, especially with a nightclub where you could be getting a lot of people coming in every week, thousands, if not, at the very least a few hundred. So drunks, really, you deal with drunks in the way that you would deal, like any of the stories I've told here on the doorman stories. You deal with them because, to me, I don't really see the drunks as being almost like anything but normal, because the problem is every single person you deal with as a doorman, as I say, if your venue's doing their job well, who's causing trouble, will be at the very least drunk. Okay, and so for me, they're the normality. So that's your normal nightly dealing with drunks who are causing trouble. And I've described the three types of drunks, and I've described how each one might just cause a bit of trouble or bring the atmosphere down a little bit. Now, the ones you've got to watch out for are the ones, and not necessarily, but some of them you've got to watch out for, are the ones who come in and they're high on drugs. Now, the reason why you've got to watch out for them, first of all, they're not putting money into your pub. People who tend to take drugs tend not to mix it with alcohol. They can do, it depends on the drug, obviously, but generally speaking, they come to your venue to get high. Maybe have a couple of drinks, but predominantly to get high. At least drunks, they come to get drunk, right? And at least then they're buying drinks. People who are coming in to do drugs are not adding, or they're not putting money in the pocket of your employer, and that's what you've got to protect. You've got to protect your weekly wage, essentially. You've got to protect your money, okay? And so if people are coming in on drugs, they'll be having tap water. Most people that I've seen on drugs, because obviously the drug of scene, the drug of choice on the scenes where I used to work was predominantly ecstasy, MDMA, things like that, ketamine. These were the kind of typical drugs of choice. And people on that just like to drink a lot of water. They will not mix it with alcohol very rarely. They do very small amounts. So they're not even paying for the water. They're just having tap water. Okay, so they're worthless worthless. They don't want them in the club. I tell you, the only time you want them in the club is if they're, and this is me not, I sound horrible saying it, but it's quite frankly, it's part of the role that you will have to play as a doorman. Is crowd control. Well, crowd control is more of a fighting term, but controlling who's in the club and controlling who's out the club is if they are a very attractive female. Okay, attractive females attract men into the club. The men then buy the women the drinks and buy themselves the drinks and stuff. The men are the ones putting money behind the bar most of the time, or the majority of the money at least, anyway. And so you've got to accept that if the women who are going now on drugs, they still potentially have value, but obviously my word of advice is if you can tell that someone is high, okay, no matter what the drug is, if high before they get into your venue, you turn them away. Okay, no good can come from people who are high in your venue. There are certain venues where you've just got to accept it's going to be done, and it's not going to be done just by a few individuals. It's going to be done by almost like 100% of the fucking people in there, and that's like the kind of rave-like scenes, the rave-like nightclubs and stuff, where a hell of a lot of MDMA, ketamine, and bits of cocaine, depending on what their personal preferences or whatever is going to be done. But that's one of those, and weed as well could be done. Okay, but obviously in those situations, how do you handle the drugs? If they're stupid, if they're dumb, and they do it right in front of you, you deal with it. You get rid of them. You can take the drugs off them. You can confiscate it. Okay, hand it into the people who own the club. The office workers of the club. The bosses or whatever. Or you can dispose of it. Get rid of it. Most doormen, I will admit, I've seen that they just pocket it. Okay, if they take the drugs themselves or sell it on, I don't know. That wasn't my scene, but it happens. Whatever. Okay, but you can either take it or you get rid of them with the drugs. It's a lot easier to get rid of them, and if they've still got drugs on them, just to get rid of them. You don't want them fighting you to get their drugs back. Just get rid of them. That's your job, to get rid of people who shouldn't be in there. Now, don't get me wrong. That's if they take the drugs, obviously, in front of you. They're asking for it. Obviously, if you see them selling drugs inside the venue, then that's an offence. In theory, you could, if you wanted, involve the police. More often than not, you're not going to. You're just going to kick them out, and obviously, that's it, and over and done with. You can't make a citizen's arrest, but not really. But it's a feasible possibility you could do that. But you're not going to. You're just going to get rid of them. You clear them out. But if they are, you suspect they're high, but they're not causing trouble, then there's no real harm in them being there. As long as they're buying drinks, then it's cool. Now, obviously, nightclubs and pubs are a little bit different. With pubs, I would be radioed in several times. It was the DJ who kept most of the pubs where I worked, who kept an eye on the crowd. And he'd go, look, people towards the corner by the toilets, they've been here 15 minutes and bought a drink. Make them buy a drink or get rid of them, one of the two. So we would be told, or we'd spot them ourselves. We would keep our eye on people who aren't buying drinks, because if they're not buying drinks, there's no need to be there. This place is not for you. That you have to be putting money into the pocket. You can't just come in like a homeless person and sit inside the venue and put no fucking money into it. You have to pay to be there. Okay, especially as most pubs don't charge an entrance fee, right? So you've got to obviously pay for your space there, because if not, you're taking up a seat or the room, a dancing area, whatever. That's someone who is paying to be there. It could be in, and there's only a maximum capacity to any venue that you're in. So you don't want people in there who are not making you money. But obviously, if they are, high on life, so to speak, but if they're high, but still putting money into your pocket, and they're not causing trouble, then, to be honest, you're not even going to notice them to start off with. What you are going to notice, and what you're going to have to deal with, is the people who are high on the wrong kind of drugs, And when by what I say by the wrong kind of drugs, I'm not judging the drugs or anything like that, or people who take them. But as an ex-doorman, I'm telling you the wrong types of drugs that you do not want in your venue is first and foremost what I've experienced: cocaine. Cocaine turns good people into fucking evil people, and they are really hard to hurt. They're going to cause you problems. If you catch anyone doing cocaine, you catch anyone with cocaine on them, you get the fucking rid of them straight away, okay? Because they ain't nothing but trouble. Some people can handle it, apparently, that's what they say, but no, in my experience, they can't. And you can always tell people who have either had cocaine in the past and, ex-users or still on it, because if you bring up the subject of drugs, specifically cocaine, if you bring it up, you go, I just had to, I had a rough week last week, someone fucking high off cocaine and, I had to fucking throw him out, whatever. They'll go, oh, really? The natural habit is to touch their nose. They'll either go like this or scratch their nose here or, it's a natural habit. That's just a little thing you might find interesting. Okay, you'll always know a cocaine user. Someone who not just had it once, but had it, a fairly frequent or regular basis at one point, or he's still doing it. That's one way of finding out. Body language and all that. But people on cocaine, they cause a lot of problems. People on MDMA, they just love the world. They ain't going to cause you no trouble. I've never had trouble with people on MDMA. I've kicked people out for having MDMA on them, and I've not let people in who are obviously high because they're on MDMA. They got the typical rabbit eyes and that. I've not let them in the venue because, as I say, typically they drink water. They're not going to be putting money in the pocket of my employer. So no, I won't let them in. But they've never caused me trouble either. Same with weed. You're not allowed to smoke in England. In an enclosed venue, so it's very hard for people to smoke weed actually on site, and on top of that it stinks. You can smell it from a fucking mile away. I have had people try to smoke it many a time. I had once a particular memory that comes back to me, a pair of men who I spotted was going into the toilets together. General rule of thumb, men don't go into toilets together. So I followed them in, thinking that there was something that was going on. They didn't look rough or anything. I knew they weren't going to be too much of a trouble, but nonetheless, it looked a bit strange. And I go in, and the toilets were empty. It was quite a quiet time at the pub early on. Even more strange for the two blokes to go together. And so I went in, and the toilets were empty, apart from one cubicle that was being used. Both of the men were in the same cubicle. So anyway, I kicked the door down, and I didn't want to see what they were doing, because if they weren't fucking taking drugs, they were doing something else that I don't want going on in my toilets, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I grabbed them and I chucked them out and said, look mate, you either sucking one another off or you're fucking doing drugs. It's one of the two. Either way, I'm not, you're out, gone. You're staying out. Anyway, they kept begging. I said, let me in, come on guys. I said, no, after about 10 minutes of begging me, I was starting to get annoyed. It's like, I'm not paid to have my fucking ear bitten off. They weren't being aggressive, but like constant nagging. You have enough of that at home, right? Anyone with a wife or a girlfriend will understand that. You have enough nagging at home, right? You don't want it at work. You feel like telling them to fuck off. But to be honest, I was having a bit of a laugh with them at the same time. But they trying to bribe me with weed to get back in. So I was like, after 10 minutes of trying to beg me, they go, oh, come on, mate, if you let us in, we'll give you some weed. I was like, so it was drugs you were doing in there. You thought you could have a bit of a puff, like, yeah? You thought you could have a bit of a smoke on my toilets. And hang on, mate, you've just been telling me 10 minutes that you weren't doing it, and to let you in because you weren't doing it, but now you're trying to bribe me? No, fuck off, guys. Come on, you're blowing it now. You're just desperate. Fuck off. I don't like drugs. Fuck off. I don't want them. You could offer me £1 million worth of the fucking shirt. I won't want it. Go away. Right. So obviously, people are stupid enough to try and smoke weed in your venues, but it's very hard to get away with. And if they're going to do it, they're going to do it in the toilet. And that is one thing that I will say. Most drugs will be used in the toilet. So if you're working a venue where you've got a little bit of mobility, say you're not on the front door, say you're on the floor, where the people are dancing or where the drinks are being served and stuff, just occasionally walking to the toilets. We used to do it every 10-15 minutes, I think it was. We used to send the doorman into the toilets just to have a look around, make sure things are alright. Alright? Partly because if someone's done drugs and overdosed, they could be collapsed in there, in which case you're going to have to do CPR and all that kind of shit. But also because you might catch them doing it. Or there could be people fighting in the toilets sometimes, right? You'd be surprised. That's where most robberies occur. Most people will be either be robbed of the drugs that they're taking, or of money that they might have, or they might be buying drugs and then they rob each other of the drugs or the money or whatever. It will happen in the toilets if it's going to happen anyway, okay? Because they don't want us to see it, and they think we're stupid. They think we're not aware that the toilets is where everything happens. There you go. We do know. We're not dumbasses. We're not dumb brutes. We know every trick of the trade, and there are other tricks as well. But as I say, the toilets is basically, be aware that that is a potential hot spot where you will have to check from time to time. But generally speaking, as I say, weed, MDMA, they're not going to really cause you problems. Okay, and weed is typically what a drug that most people would do at home most likely. They're not going to do it too much in a social scene because they're just going to fall asleep anyway and chill. They're not going to want to perhaps dance and all that crap. But the drug that they, as I say, to watch out for is cocaine. Now, cocaine, I've had numerous encounters with people who are high on cocaine, and normally I don't have any real problems dealing with people, kicking them out and all the rest of it. And I'm telling you now, people on cocaine are very, very, very strong, much stronger than what they normally are. You can have a man in his middle-aged man with no muscle on him whatsoever, no reason to think, he's going to be a handful, suddenly turn into a fucking, real hard to handle arsehole, basically. And they will punch you. They will punch you. They're not just going to push you or grab you and that. They will punch you, and they will kick you, and they'll cause damage to the venue. Kick over chairs and tables, shit like that. So, as I say, my word of warning is deal with the cocaine. That's your priority. Deal with the cocaine. Now, there are other drugs to be aware of that I've either had no experience of, or it's so rare as rocking horse shit that, it's not really something you have to worry about. Certainly in England. Obviously, other countries might be a wee bit different. One, crystal meth. I've never had any personal experience of that as a doorman. Dealing with someone on that, I don't even know the side effects of being on it. I wouldn't be able to spot it. Reason is, it's not done that commonly in England, at least on a social level. Within a nightclub and that. I've heard it's done down in London a little bit, but not up here. I've never seen it. I wouldn't even know what it looks like. Like crystals, I assume. It's the name, right? But I'm honestly, I have complete ignorance on that. So I'm sorry, guys. I know it's a problem in America, and I would love to learn from you guys your experiences of people on it and how you've had to deal with them. If you're a doorman and they've caused trouble, do they cause trouble? I don't know. Are they chilled? Are they aggressive? I don't know. And the other one is PCP, angel dust. Again, this doesn't exist really in England. I've never even. No, the only reason I know of it is from documentaries and Hollywood films, so I assume it's again a mostly American drug, and I think it's even rare over there. But anyway, guys, that's me just giving a very long half an hour video. It's supposed to be more like 15-minute video on drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. But I feel that guys, it's valid information for you guys to hear, and I really do hope it helps you. Or if you're a doorman on here and you're just watching this for entertainment, or just go like, oh yeah, I've had experiences like that and that. Well, thank you for watching, fellow peers and all the rest of it. Lovely to have you on here. Now I do get a few trolls on here as well, and telling me I'm a fucking idiot and all that. Well, you know what, guys, fuck off. There you go. I don't give a shit what you think. But for the good guys out there, thank you for watching. I will talk to you again soon. I'm actually going to film a video right now, and it's going to be a video on how to deal with women. And I'm not talking chatting them off. I mean dealing with women on the doors. Lovely guys. See you soon.